Okay, guys, you've asked. Once again, we're trying to listen. And number one request we've been getting lately is, can Karen do a tip? Kinda, and it's sort of about right.
It was hit or miss there for a minute. I glued myself to the table when I was getting set up, and things happen.
I feel your pain. I've been there. I've glued myself to clients. It happens to everybody. If you've done it, it happened to us too. But it's an important thing to know. I know that we kind of promote forms, right? We prefer forms, and we do a lot of sculpting. But I don't know about you, but I did tips for about 6 years of my career when I first started out. So it is important. If you want to know, can you show us how to do it?
Absolutely. I would love to show you.
Oh, she's excited too. This should be good.
Okay, so today I'm going to show you guys something that we don't do a lot of demos of. We're going to do a tip application with an acrylic overlay. So we're going to start out just like we would any other application. We're going to start out with our cuticle work. Push back the cuticles, get those cleaned up. We're going to come back through with our medium arbor band at about 3,000 to 5,000 RPMs, right up around that cuticle, and then follow through the rest of the body of the nail. Remove the shine all the way through. She's got just a little bit of damaged areas on her nail here. Just want to be very careful when I'm working around those. Again, I like to switch over to my diamond cuticle bit. This is our square cuticle bit. And again, I like to work that right up into the cuticle. If a client has extra cuticle, or if you can't get that arbor band right up in there, this is going to help you really take care of any of that extra cuticle. All right, I'm going to dust that nail off. Use a little bit of our swipe on the nail. Clean that off. And then we're going to go into sizing our tip. And this is where people tend to have a little bit of a struggle. I think a lot of times people like to size too small, and that's where they have issues. So she actually has a really small finger, so people tend to go to the smaller size. And what they like to do is they like to take that tip and they want to press it down. Do you see how these corners kind of flare out? They kind of get a little wider when I press that nail on. If you try to take that curve and you press it down and flatten it out, what's going to happen is it's going to want to pop back up. So you want to make sure that you don't have to use a lot of pressure to push down on that, because do you see how it does just pop right back up? Okay, so we want to go to a little bit of a bigger size. Okay, so this one looks like it comes all the way from the side to the other side, and I'm not putting a lot of pressure on there. It doesn't spread out, it doesn't flare out at those corners. Okay. Now on the other hand, we don't want something that's too big. Okay. If we put that nail on, we want it to fit the curve of her nail, but when we put that on, if it's overhanging quite a bit, we don't want that either. Okay, so it's that fine line of, does it fit the C curve of the nail, and does it fit the width of the nail? Now here's the trick though. If you find a nail that fits the curve of her nail, so the curve of the nail this way, but it feels like it's a little too wide, you can come in with your file and just file away a little bit of that side. Okay. So file a little on that side. Make sure you file about the same amount on either side so you don't end up with a lopsided tip. Okay, so this way would actually sit right down on her nail. Okay, it's not hanging over. It's just fitting that curve perfectly. Okay, so I do have a decision to make. Does this one feel like it fits perfectly without customizing, or does the customized one feel better? And you know what? I actually think that the customized one feels a little bit better. Okay? Now, when you glue your tip on, you're going to glue the nail on, and you're going to blend the seam so that you don't see where the natural nail is and then where the extension, where that tip comes in. So when you blend it, you want to do as little filing on the nail as possible. So I actually like to come in and I'm going to use my 180 file, and I'm just going to go through and I'm going to pre-blend and just file right through that well area. Okay. Just so we take off a little bit of bulk and thin that out as much as we can so that when we do go to blend it, we're not going to be filing so much while it's on her nail. Okay. A lot of times people, when they're trying to blend their tips in, they start to file, and they file not just here, but then they file up into that natural nail, and that's where a lot of damage can come in. So the more we can take off the bulk from here, the less we're going to have to worry about damaging her natural nail. Okay. Now I'm just going to dust this off. Okay. Once more, I'm going to go through with a little bit of my swipe just in case we got any filing dust on there or anything. And then we're going to make sure that that nail is nice and dry. Now you can use either your nail glue in the tube or you can use a brush-on glue. It's your personal preference, whichever you feel you have more control over, because the last thing you want to do is glue yourself to your client, to their finger, to the tabletop. Trust me, I've heard it all. Okay, so I'm going to use the tube. And I'm going to just put a little bit of our glue just right into that tiny little well. Okay, with this tube you want to tip it down, give it a little bit of a squeeze, and sometimes you can actually see the glue coming down the tube. So if you see that, lighten up on your pressure so that you don't flood that glue into the well. Okay? Now, before I do this, I actually want to show you how I'm going to apply it before I put the glue on. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a ridge in the back of that well. So I don't want to put it just flat on the nail because that's actually going to put a little bit of an air bubble in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start it at about a 45-degree angle. I'm going to slide it down just until you feel it click into that little well, right into that little stop area. And then I'm going to rock it down onto the nail and put pressure on. And then we're going to hold it. Okay, so again, 45-degree angle, slide it down till it clicks in, and then rock it down. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and apply my glue. Just a little bit right into that well, and you want to be careful that you don't get too much glue into the well because you don't want it to flood all over her nail. So just a little bit all the way through. And again, if you feel like you have more control with the brush-on glue, definitely use the brush-on glue. Okay, so we're going to slide it down till it clicks in, and then I'm going to rock it down. And you can actually see right where that glue is adhering. Okay? I'm going to hold it for 5 to 10 seconds or so until you feel like that nail is secure on there. Okay? All right, now if there is a little bit of glue that kind of squeezed out there, go ahead and wipe that off. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take this nail and we're going to cut it and shape it, and then we're going to blend it and then do our overlay. Now if you have a tip cutter, it's a great time to use a tip cutter, just a quick one cut. I'm going to use our toenail clippers. I'm going to cut one side, cut the other side, and cut just a little bit more in there if I can, and then just give it a quick twist. Okay. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to, do you see how it kind of angles downward? Let me turn here. Okay. It kind of angles down a little bit. We again want to bring that up so that nail is coming flat out from her natural nail. So I'm going to start with pressure under just the extension area. And I'm going to file that up until it comes straight out to that natural nail. Okay. Same thing on the other side. I'm going to put pressure into that extension and just until it comes up to her natural nail. Okay. Now, if you want to do more of a rounded nail, more of a tapered nail, I can go ahead and taper in a little bit more if I want more of a coffin shape. Okay. Same thing on the other side, just taper in a little bit more. And we can do a coffin. Just remember to keep that coming straight out from that natural nail. So on the rest of her nails, she's got a little bit more of an almond shape, so I'm just going to come in and take that into more of an almond. If you want to, you can always use your toenail clipper, kind of round that out a little bit, rather than filing in that whole shape. And we're going to come in, taper that in, and round it a little bit more. Now, you got to remember that this is not your final shape, it's just kind of your rough shaping, okay? But at this point, I've got a pretty good shape. Okay, now I'm going to go through and I'm going to blend it. So all we're trying to do is blend right here at that seam so that you don't see the difference between the natural nail and the extension. So as I'm filing, I want to make sure that my file never goes past the edge of that tip. Okay? If you start filing up into the natural nail, that's where you're going to start to create damage. So I just want to very carefully, and especially if you're just learning how to do this, do it slow. Okay? You don't have to file fast, you have to file accurate. So we're just going to work right through that seam. Just little short strokes all the way through. Okay. And because we did that pre-blend before we glued the tip on, you're not going to have a whole lot of work to do at this point. Okay. I'm going to dust that off. I'm going to go through and just remove the rest of the shine from the whole nail. Make sure everything is blended nicely. Okay. Dust that off one more time. Now, I'm going to go through and clean the nail with a little bit more swipe, but I want to be careful that I'm not getting the swipe onto that plastic tip. Swipe does have a little bit of acetone to it, and if you get too much acetone on that tip, it's going to end up cracking. So at this point, I like to use the swipe with one of our lint-free wipes. Do a little pump, I'll fold it over, and then just give that nail a quick wipe. Okay. Just to make sure it's nice and clean. Now at this point, I'm going to use that same little bit of swipe on there. I'm going to wipe off the top of my glue. This is crucial, you guys. Make sure that you clean your glue before you put your cap back on. If there's a little bit of glue on there and you try to put the cap back on and you tighten it up, you have a big chance that you're going to glue the cap back on. So make sure you clean that before you put it away. Now we're going to go into our application. We're going to use our protein bond, and the protein bond only really needs to go just on that natural nail. Okay, so just through that natural nail and right at that seam. Okay, go through all 10 of your nails, come back, do your second coat, and then you're ready for your overlay. All right, I'm going to give myself a nice clean place to wipe my brush. So I'm going to fold my table towel over. And I'm going to use our Core Natural today. I really like the natural when I'm working over some tips like this with the natural tip, because it's just going to give you a really pretty natural looking nail. So if you have a client who they just want a natural looking nail, they may not want a lot of polish or color or design, this is a really good choice. All right, so when you're doing just a natural or a clear overlay, you want to check and make sure that you don't have any glitter left in your dampened dish. If you do, I just used a little bit of swipe on a lint-free wipe, and I'm going to clean that out. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do our acrylic application. I'm going to wipe out a little bit of the liquid out of my brush. I'm going to pick up a pearl. I'm going to drop that right down at the cuticle area, and I'm going to angle that finger straight down so that the product is going to run down the length of the nail. I'm going to press out by my cuticle and to my sides, and I'm just going to let that product flow down the extension, just kind of guiding it into place. Once I have it about where I want, I'm going to lift up on the finger. I'm going to just feather that free edge out so that it keeps my free edge nice and thin, but it keeps my arch of my nail right where it needs to be, right over the stress area. Now this is a core product, so it is going to set a little bit slower than the speed products. So kind of keep that in mind. If you are somebody that likes to work a little faster, speed products work great for you. If you like to work a little slower, the core products are going to work really good for you. If you're used to using speed and you switch over to the natural core, it's going to set a little bit slower, so you need to get used to that. All right, so we're going to let this one set up. We'll file it out and we'll go from there. Okay, so we've finished filing the nail, and I'm going to go ahead and just top coat this. I'm going to use our brush, dust off all that dust, a little bit of swipe to clean it off, and then we're going to do 1 coat of protein bond again, so that when I do my top coat, it's going to look ultra clear, and we're going to see that nice natural look to the nail. And then I'm going to use our Ultimate Finish gel. You have all of your different choices of top coats that you can use. I like the Ultimate Finish because it dries with no tacky surface that I have to wipe off. So once it's cured, it's cured. Okay, and that's going to go into our light for, I like to do a full 2 minutes. 1 minute is enough to cure it all the way through, but 2 minutes is going to give us that really high shine. So we've taken her out of the light. Her nail is all cured. I'm going to finish with a little bit of our rose oil, and you can see we've got a really pretty natural nail with our tip.
Young Nails is committed to giving you the best nail education in the world. Check out more of our videos. Head right over here. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and do that by clicking right over here.